Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So in this week's video, I'm going to show the easiest and simplest way you can start running Facebook ads for your business as cheaply as possible at first, so you can just test the waters and see how well your product responds and whether Facebook ads is a viable path to advertise for your product in the first place. So I'm going to keep it really simple here, how all of this works, and just the easiest way to set this up. And as always, as a quick introduction, my name is Tobias Kager. I'm a marketer from Germany, and I'm currently the head of sales marketing for a software company here. I also have my own agency where I consult the clients up to 4 million a year and also build organic accounts up to 200,000 followers. So I hope I can help you out with this video so you can start running Facebook ads for your own business. So let's jump right in. So let's jump over to the board here and let me make my camera a bit smaller here so you can see this better. So before we jump into the ad manager, the first thing that's most important when it comes to running Facebook ads is your offer and your creative. That's the first thing. Before you touch anything in the ad manager with the setup, the offer and the creative is the most important thing. So for the offer, I will get into this equation in a second. The offer here, a bit too big. I will get into this equation here in a second, but for the offer, what I want to think about in general is create an offer for your product that is as easy for people to get into as possible. So it has to be as good of a deal for people as possible. And ideally something you would say yourself, well, that's great. I would want to sign up for that and I want to buy it. That's the mindset you want to have. And that's attached to the value equation. It's not from me, it's from Alex Hormozi, but it's the best way to portray this. It's like desired outcome X, perceived likelihood of achievement, and time X, sacrifice. So what's the dream outcome? How likely is the person to achieve it? And what's the time and sacrifice they have to bring into it? And it's, again, in simple terms, just how easy is the great thing they want that we pitch them, and how easy it is to get, and how little sacrifice they have to put in. That's how we need to structure your offer. And just then, for your business, for your service, for your product, create as great of an offer as possible. That's the main driver how ads are going to work for you. So once you have the offer, you have to make ads. And for the ads, again, don't be lazy on that. Either make great video ads. I would recommend you to do that for most services besides e-commerce, but everywhere else, at least give video as a try and set them up correctly. If you want, I can do another video about how to structure video ads. Just let me know in the comments below, but that's how I would set that up. And really put effort into it. I can do another video, but there are tons of videos on YouTube already how to make great video ads. Look at them, put effort into it, and make great ads, because that's 10 times more important than the ads manager itself and all the funnel you have behind it. So make great ads and creatives, and do, like, for the beginning, I just recommend you to do 1, 2, 3. You can do up to 6 if you want to, but 1 to 3 should be fine just to test the waters. So we have a great offer. We have a few great ads, video and photos, or just one kind. You can do only videos as well. I would not recommend you to do only photos, because for most services, video will just yield better results, in my opinion. So we have those two, and now we can go into the ad manager. So how we are going to set this up? You could do tons and tons of different funnels now. You can do complicated landing pages or webinars or all of that stuff that you might have seen online what people are doing. If you're starting out, the main thing you want to do is to check how well ads and the market responds to your offer and your product. And for that, we will keep it as simple as possible. So let me jump over to the ad manager and explain this for you. So we are right now in an empty ad account, and we will start completely from scratch. And as I said, this will be the easiest funnel to set up, the cheapest one to get the first results. You will have to put in a ton of work working those leads, and I will focus solely on lead gen in this video, but it's the cheapest and simplest way. So in the ad manager, you just go on create and select leads as the conversion target. And you go to continue. You can skip this stuff and the campaign score for now, and then we give it a new name and just name it leads campaign. What do we have right now? June. And then you can ignore everything up here, other if you apply to special ad categories like insurance and stuff like that, or financial services in some cases. But for the most part, you can ignore this. Campaign details can stay like it is, and campaign budget. Here you just set the budget for that you want to spend on a daily basis. And here the best reference point is don't use a budget that you can just ignore, because then you won't put enough effort into it, but don't make it that high that it will hurt your business in any way, of course. So here's 25 euros, for example, a day, but just use a budget, I'd say at least like $20 or euros a day, but that's comfortable for you. That stings a bit if you would lose it, but that's not like terrible if anything goes wrong for your business. So select a budget, stick with campaign budget, and select and A/B tests can stay off. And then we go to next. Here in the ad set, and we just gonna name it ad set targeting 1, for example, we will select instant forms. Why is that? Because of course you can send people to your website, but then you would have to be good at setting up a good converting website. And that's something that takes time and effort, and that's something we don't have for this case at the moment. So you just stick to instant forms, leave everything else here like it is, instant forms, and select the Facebook page where you want to run it. If you want me to do a separate video how to set all of this up, how to set up your ad manager, how to connect your pages, just comment below. I'd be glad to do that. But just select your Facebook page here. And for the performance goal, to start out, just stick with maximize number of leads. That's our goal right here. Then budget and schedule, that can stay as it is. And then for the audience, that's the most important part. You see right here, Advantage Plus is on. That's Facebook's AI feature for the targeting, so that any entries you make here and any changes are just suggestions, despite the location, of course, are just suggestions for the algorithm of Facebook. They're not hard boundaries anymore like they were back in the day. And by now, this is the best feature to use. Facebook is good enough to find the right people and expand the settings you did or the targeting details you gave if Facebook sees it fit, that it will get better results, and most of the times it really does. So in here, it's simple as well. We go to locations and you select all the locations where you can deliver your service or product. So whether it's national, locally, just select only the area, of course, where you can also deliver your service to. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'll just stick with Germany here. And suggest an audience. You can go in here and show suggestions, and here you can make suggestions to Facebook and Instagram what people most likely are interested in your service. You just suggest stuff. They are not hard boundaries anymore, but that's fine. Just go in here, and then you set an age range where you think your target or your ideal client is at, and then you select if you have really services that are only targeted to one gender, of course, select it here. If not, if it's like 70-30, you can just leave it open. Facebook most likely will figure it out. And then detail targeting, you go in here and you can add like up to 5 interests or behaviors. I'd recommend you to start out with, to give Facebook a bit of targeting and suggestions they can work with, but don't go over 5, would be just my recommendation to start out with, and just to keep it simple. And again, Facebook will take that into considerations, but those are not hard boundaries. So as long as you have Advantage Plus on, you can make any huge mistakes, and that's not the key lever in the end. Also, if you have some lookalike audiences, for example, already, if you're a bit more advanced, you could add them up here as suggestions as well, but we'll skip that for now. Then you just select the beneficiary who pays for the ads, but that's something that we would cover in a ad account setup video, so we can skip that here as well. And placements can stay on Advantage Plus. So it's really very simple process. And then the next part is the ad itself. And here we will just give the ad a name, like ad 1. We will go down here, select our Facebook page, which we did before, select the Instagram account, create ad, select single image or video. You deselect multi-advertiser ads because that's when Facebook creates like little carousels with similar ads and services like you have and puts them next to each other. That's something you don't want because you show up right next to your competition. It's just not a good idea. So deselect that. And then we have destination here. And here we cover the instant form. And here we can now set up our form where people actually convert. And what I would recommend you to do here, let me select one of my simplest ones I did in the beginning, which were for high volume. Here, for example, you go on to create a form to show this from scratch. You give the form a name, of course. Here with the form type, you can select between more volume, high intent, and rich creative. More volume is just people give their contact information, send the form, that's it. Then high intent, they have to go through an additional verification step with the slide to submit slider right here. I wouldn't do that, especially if you start out, for example, because you just will get a bit less leads that are a bit more expensive, but does make a huge difference in my opinion. Another useful feature is rich creative, where you can add way more information about your business. But when we are starting out and we just want to test how people respond to our offer and our product, keep it simple. Just select more volume, because what we want is the most leads and the cheapest leads we can get, and we do the filtering in the sales part when we call them up. Rich creative would just be a higher barrier to entry with higher quality leads, but also more expensive leads. And to start out, we can do all of this fancy stuff later, just stick to more volume. That would be my recommendation. And then we click next. We can insert a background image if you want to make it a bit nicer, which I would most likely recommend. Just add a nice background image here for your business. And you can add a greeting if you want to, with a headline and some information. I'd recommend you to do that, to be honest, so it's not just the contact information, because in here, I'll show you in a minute, you can add some additional information about your offer and use this like a mini landing page, let's say. Then you click on next, and in here you can edit the form itself. Facebook, since a few months ago, gave us here tons of more options what we can do and how many pieces of information we want people to give us before they can submit the form. And we can also submit conditional logic. For example, if people give a certain answer, they get sorted out and leave the funnel, for example. But to start out, we will skip all of that. We will just use contact information, full name, email, and phone number. Phone number should be mandatory, in my opinion. So, because that's just really key when you want to reach out to people quickly. Phone number is just a more direct way and an easier way to reach them than just email. So I wouldn't put that as optional. And then you add, if you want to do one verification step, which in most cases is not that bad of an idea, add one short answer verification question, for example. For example, either a text question where they can answer, where you ask a question about your product. For example, if you need some more information about the client that helps you in the sales process later on, that's a good thing to put in here, because you can a bit pre-qualify the lead a little bit. And there's at least one hurdle that's not autofilled, because most of the times the contact information gets autofilled and then you get many times less good leads. And as I said, we want to focus on high volume here, make it as easy as possible, but that's something you can do just as one short answer. So we have at least one filter and one verification step. And you can do a text-based question, as I said, or you can add a multiple choice answer. The key thing here is to have it relate to your offer and to your ideal client, and ideally get information that helps you to qualify the lead and help you in the sales process later on. So we go in here And then we just either create the question with the text box or the multiple choice question. And then we give a description to the instant form here. And then we go to next. We insert our privacy policy from our website. We click next again. And then we have a headline up here. Thanks, we all set. So that's fine. And here you can give people a bit more information what's going to happen next. So I just recommend you to say what you're going to do. So you'll reach out via email and call them as fast as possible, for example. And what I'd like to do is really give a time frame, because if people have a time frame, they know when you're going to call. If you just say, yeah, I'm going to call you, that could be in 2 days, for example. So just say like in the next 12 hours, 24 hours. Ideal is as fast as possible, but we're going to cover that in a minute. And what you can do here, you can use that as a mini landing page here as well. You can say, oh, thanks for submitting the form. We'll reach out to you in like 12 hours. If you want more information, check out this bonus, for example, on a website we have for you. And then you can send people to your website and, for example, to a VSL with a call booking form, where people, if they're interested that much, then they can go here and book a call with you right away. So you can use that again as a mini extension of your funnel. Put your website in here. And if you don't have this funnel option, just put your regular website in here, for example. You can also do call if you have, for example, a local service that people can call you directly. So there's not really a wrong answer in here. Just do something that makes sense for your service or for your business. And then you click create form. And one setting that's important to change is up here. You could turn off autofill if the lead quality is not good. I would not recommend you to turn it off right away. Just leave it on, because again, in the beginning, we want high volume. Then form configuration. Here you select the language you want your form to be displayed, and you go from restricted to open here when it comes to sharing. Because when it's restricted, only people who see your ad can access the form. If it's open, people can share your ad and other people can access your form. So to give you the best likelihood of getting as many leads as possible, just stick to open. So that's the best part. And then you click done and create form, and that's it. And I'm going to exit out of here, and I'm going to show you a form I used successfully before for a software company. It's in German, but I can translate. It's basically offer for 4 weeks, create unlimited access programs and prints for patients for free. Just submit your form here, submit this form, and create your first access program for your patients today. And I was a bit more advanced here because I ran a bunch of funnels before for this offer. That's why I have 2 qualifying questions in here, multiple choice in our case, and the usual form. And just a simple thank you page again with the link to the website with like a multi-step funnel. And that's it for the form. We just submit it, we have the form selected, and we have the form done. So the last part is to set up the ad itself. Here with follow-up with leads, chat with leads via instant form, I would not select that to start out as well. You can just leave it as it is, and then we just set up the creative. And you go to set up creative, either select image or video ad, and then you upload your ad, for example. I will just take this one. In my case, this video ad I created sometime back. That's not the best ad. That was just a test, but just so we have a file in here. Make sure your ad is aligned with the format sizes. So make sure you have a 9:16 version and a 4:5 version for videos, and for images a 1:1 and 9:16 version, so that it suits the platforms nicely, for example, Reels compared to the feed. And that's a little bit extra work, but it's worth it in my opinion. Turn on flexible media. I would turn that off, because if you put in the work to create separate formats for each placement, then you want Facebook to use it. So turn that off, put it in here, and then we have the ad. Sometimes Facebook has a bug where it, after you upload different formats, it syncs, for example, the 9:16 to the 4:5 to the square version, or the other way around. I'd recommend you to first upload the square 4:5 video, for example, and then the vertical one then in my experience, those issues don't happen as much. You click next, and then you add your primary text, your headline, and your description. So for the primary text, I recommend you to use just some hook that gets people drawn in, or your offer itself. So for example, how you can achieve dream outcome X and Y with a product X and Y in time X and Y. And then below that, you can do a few bullet points, for example, to explain your product. And I wouldn't make a primary text that's too long. Just keep it simple, pitch your offer, make a great hook, then like you created the ads themselves, explain about your product, give, for example, some testimonials, and then a CTA that they can submit the form and take you up on your offer. That's it. For the headline, I would use your offer as well. For example, if you have 40% off for a limited time only. That's a bit long in this case, but just keep it short headline, and put that in here. If you have multiple options you would like to test, you can also put a few more options in here as headlines and primary text. That's not an issue because Facebook will just select the best one for you. So that's not a problem. Description, just keep it simple as well and short. So the headline should only be 5 words, in my opinion. Description, keep it short as well. For example, like 5-star rated, or I'd like often to give some testimonial sort of description, like 5-star rated or something like that. And then for the call to action, you just use what suits your offer best. I most of the times just use learn more, to be honest. And then you click next again, and then you have a ton of different options here. For example, to start out, I would turn off most of them. So text improvements, you can turn off. Video effects, visual touch-ups, translate text. I don't really like all of those because we selected all of that in our targeting, so we don't really need those enhancements. Relevant comments you can turn on if you have it in here. Facebook removed it in this ad account already because it's on automatically again, as far as I know. So you just turn those off that just mess with your creative. And enhanced CTA, you can turn that on, for example, because Facebook will just test a few more CTAs. But if you turn it off, it's not a problem as well. Just apply common sense. Everything that messes with your ad placement, like your creative, the colors, where your text is displayed, I would turn that off because you don't put in the effort to design it properly to Facebook, then mess with it and move it around. And then we are done. We have our video in here, our ads in here with all the right placements and formats. I don't have a 9:16 video in here, but you can see in the feed it's displayed nicely in 4:5. And then we are done. It's really simple. Put in your primary text and everything in here, and we just have our ads, our offer, a text up here, and send people to the instant form. And that's the simplest funnel you can start out with, in my opinion, because, and that brings me to the next part, you will get tons and tons of leads, absolutely. And there will be a lot of bad leads in there as well, but a lot of good ones too. And when you start out, I'd strongly recommend you, as I said, to go for high volume, because then you do the filtering process, but you get at least cheap leads, because with every filter you apply, leads will get more expensive. So you have just your high volume leads come in, and as soon they are come in, you email them and call them up. And the faster you can do that, the better. And I can't emphasize this enough how important that is. And when I started with the Ads for Software company, I did that with hundreds of leads that came in from the instant forms before we switched to a different funnel after some time, but that was after months of testing. High volume leads coming in that are cheap, and then you just call them plus email them as fast as possible and as many times as possible. So my recommendation would be just call them up as many times as you can in the first week at least. So like 2 to 3 times a day, email them every day or every second day at least. especially in the beginning. For example, you email them twice in the first day. If they don't respond immediately, then once the second, once the third, once the fourth, and then, for example, wait until the sixth, make 1 day pause. So you run at risk to do too little more than doing too much, because people showed interest in your service here, and your service is there to help people and to benefit them. And they showed interest. So you have every right to call them up until you reach them. Of course, if they say no, then you leave them alone. And then you are done as well. Because if you reach them at the first day and they say, no, I did that by accident, you can filter them out. You don't have to do all the work again over the next few days. But just make sure you do enough in the first week at least. Call them as fast as possible and many times in the first few days to reach them. Because otherwise, if you don't do that, for example, if you wait 2 days until you call a lead for the first time, or just write emails and don't call them at all, when people fill out instant forms, it's very easy, and that's our goal here. It's a very low friction, but then we also run at risk of people just forgetting about it and just, for example, after 5 days, don't even know anymore who they signed up with or who you are. So we want to call them as fast as possible when we are still in our mind, and the likelihood that they are still interested is as high as possible, and that the interest in our service is still there. And of course, we have the benefit with the high volumes that we get cheap leads and many, but then we have to do the work here on the back end and call them up as fast as possible. And again, for the first week, just you're better off running at risk to annoy people a bit, but as soon as they say no, you just stop, of course, compared to just saying, oh no, I don't want to contact them too much, and waiting around and not maximizing each lead as much as you can, because you paid for them, you paid money for them, and you better get your money's worth if you do that. And then you will just let that run for a month, for example, and see how well the ads were compared to the results you got. So how much you paid Facebook to run the ads and how much you got out. That's really the only number that matters in the beginning. How much you put in and how much you get out. And if you're profitable, great, then you can expand and do the fine tuning, let's say. And if you're not profitable, you can see either you have to do a different offer, or maybe your product is not that well suited for ads. Most of the times it's the offer, to be honest. But that's everything you can play around with afterwards. Or you create better ads, for example. But in the beginning, our goal is, as I said, so let's put it here, our goal is to figure out, is our product viable? Is our product viable? And is our offer working? That's the goal. And if you have the ads running at a certain ROAS, for example, at a certain return, and then you see, oh, okay, our sales team is completely drained because they have to call so many leads all the time, and we would be better off having less leads with a bit more quality. Then you can go in and say, okay, let me apply a few more filter options to the instant forms, or maybe try a rich creative, which has a higher barrier, more expensive leads, but you can afford those more expensive leads, and see whether you can get better results that way. And if that's still working and you want to expand even further, then you can start testing, for example, doing a webinar funnel or a call funnel. But you only do that once you have established that your product works with ads, even if it's a ton of work upfront with calling them and emailing them in the beginning. But that's the easiest and cheapest way to test. You have to put a lot of effort in it and a lot of time, but it's cheap. You can test your product and offer cheaply and fast, but you have to call them up a lot. So I hope this gives you a good overview how to start running ads for your business in a simple way. If you want me to do a video that goes into how to set up good ads and good creatives themselves, just let me know in the comments. I'd be glad to do that. Same for the setup for the ad manager. But when it just comes to the setup of the campaign, that's, in my opinion, the easiest process. You just have a leads campaign that runs 1, 2, 3 ads to an instant form with like one qualifying question at max to start out. You can go no qualifying questions as well, but then lead quality might be a bit bad. And then you email and call them up like a maniac in the first week. And again, to everything I've said, apply common sense. Don't lose yourselves in the detail in the ad manager. Just keep it simple. As I said, if you leave Advantage Plus targeting on, you can't mess up too much. Just only advertise where you can deliver your product or service. Then set up the ads, make a great offer, put effort into the ads, and then let it run for a month and see how it works. And then if it works great, you can increase the budget, make adjustments. But to start out, keep it with this simple funnel. So it's a bit of a longer video today, but I really hope this helped you guys to start out with your Facebook ads and your journey and to test ads and how viable your product is for ads in your offer as cheaply as possible and as simple as possible. So that's it for this video, guys, and see you next week. Bye-bye.